Have you been feeling the pull of something ancient? Something encoded deep within your bones? What if the frequencies we're living through right now aren't random, but orchestrated from a deeper field of intelligence? We are inside a living prophecy, moving through time spirals that are calling us to remember, to realign, and to rise. This moment in the cycle is no accident. The codes of Pacal are whispering again, and the time to listen is now. Welcome to the Call of Pacal, Resonance, Remembrance, and Return.
Tune in with the Galactic Spin podcast and expand your view.
En la cache Tzolk'in out there to everybody tuning in with Galactic Spin podcast. Greetings to one and all. My name is Mikuak Rai, Kin 126, joined by my brother Rubén Llinás, Kin 113. En la cache, brother Rubén, how you feeling, man?
In la cache, brother, can you hear me well?
Yeah, let me put my headphones on because I'm sure I'll hear you much better that way.
Yes, because I'm
Just landing here, flying right in.
Yes.
Right on time. I love the backdrop though. I love the golden energy there. It looks great.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
We had the privilege to move to a new place, and we found this Ouroboros on a golden frame.
Amazing.
Very suitable for everything that we have to say tonight, and
for sure
to everyone who is tuning in right now, all the people who have been following this adventure towards the golden intersection of timelines. We have been working diligently in the back to bring all the new information that arrived in this wavespell of prophecies, 13 days, still settling all the...
And it's not over yet.
It's not over yet. Yeah, we have still 2 days remaining, but very grateful to be here again on this episode 34, part of the Fibonacci sequence, the ninth step on that spiral. So this is a good time also to like, share, subscribe, help us move the algorithm, spread the word, so that more people around the world can really enjoy what this golden intersection of timeless is all about, and why is it so special? Why is not like a regular event, but a once in many lifetimes event?
Very, very rare, for sure. Well, I want to send a special shout out to Ishel for that beautiful opening video, the opening transmission, just setting the tone and the intention for the exploration together tonight. So also big love to Alejandra. Again, like you said, the team has been working diligently to bring this energy and hold the space. Most importantly, really and truly, it's about the space we're holding together, I believe. So as we are approaching this very sacred, very rare intersection that is offering an incredible moment to vibrate higher, to heal, to reconcile, we want to really help make it very, very clear for people what is ahead of us all collectively at this time. It's very, very precious. And so we know that the world requires a lot of healing and a lot of clarification and a lot of course correction right now. And so we're holding space that this is certainly the type of energy that is coming through this beautiful sacred threshold. So looking forward to getting into that. And perhaps with that, we'll just go ahead and get into the Earth's pulse
Yes.
and tune in. All right. Dive right in, brother.
Yes. Well, what we see here is a slide from last week, from the last week episode, that we want to remember that the sun has been going through a spike in its activity. We had the most or the largest or most powerful X flare of the year on May 14th. And since then, we had another sunspot coming in that on the next slide we can see that in the last day, last 24 hours, it produced 3 flares, one X flare like this one, but 1.1, and 2 M flares. Let's remember that this is our sun. Like we mentioned on our last episode, our sun is alive also, and it's made out of plasmas. And these plasmas, every time that we have solar activity, they reach to the Earth and they interact with our own electromagnetic field, with the electromagnetic field of the Earth. And of course, it has a reverberation or an effect on our biology. And we mentioned last week also the importance of staying hydrated during this time. And this sunspot that is now turning the limb is really giving us like a little breath, because we had a major explosion last week, another one week later, and it seems like now the sun is going to be quiet for a while. But during this wave spell of prophecy, this is certainly important, because it is through the energy of the sun. We already mentioned on our last episode that we just crossed a threshold, which is why we decided to extend the energy of last transmission towards this transmission, and expand on what this energy of Pacal Votan Kin 60 that we already discussed on our last episode, why is now showing up again. We didn't know this 7 days ago. This is like what we are going to speak today is probably an effect of these explosions or these solar pulsations. And what we are going to do today is do our best to put into context and to really recap on the threshold that we just entered, which is this last 144 days to the golden intersection of timelines, and why that interval is important. This is what we were mentioning. This is the X flare from yesterday, Kin 62, the 24th day of this 11th moon, and the 2 M flares, one M2.2 and another 8.9. And the other important thing is happening in the sky was this conjunction of the moon, Saturn, and Venus right during that window. So the entrance to the 144 days was a signal in the sky by these beautiful alignments that kind of help us come to the conclusion that there is a narrative and there is an orchestration of events taking place above and below on the fourth dimension and on the third dimension, and we have the opportunity here to appreciate. So this is what we could see until yesterday. Really, at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day, right before the sun comes, we will see the moon, Venus, and Saturn on the other side. And let's remember that Saturn is associated also with the god Kronos of time, and that every time that we have an alignment involving that planet, well, it brings a lot of that energy into our everyday realities, especially when it's aligned with the planet of relationships, which is Venus. And then we can kind of add the attributes of each planet and put our attention on how much time are we giving our relationships, our meaningful relationships, how much time do we spend working, and how much time do we have a relationship with ourselves, which is the most important relationship. So this is just a brief recap of what happened. Of course, there is a lot going on, the geopolitical, as we know, and on the technological also, there is a lot of conversations going around the development of AI, the large language models. And we want to put that today into the entire context, because it was on in the year 2021 when we started to track these cycles of 144 days, in which we just completed on Kin 60 the 30th. And we will go today a little bit more on the importance of those cycles. We already covered on the last episode that there was a connection between this code and our DNA. And what we are going to do today is just go a little deeper into the prophecy that is behind this, and alignment and this entire wayspell of prophecy.
So much to share. So much to share.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody tuning in the live chat. I just want to shout out to the folks who've been, as you mentioned before, taking this journey together with us to the golden intersection of timelines, and just really grateful for your presence on the planet, and just the way you show up for yourselves as well. Just really watching everybody as we're all blossoming and blooming in our own myriad ways. So more to celebrate in that. But let's go ahead and sink in and tune up.
Yep.
And as usual, here we are identifying where we find ourselves in this year, the NS1 37 year. And that's 37 cycles out of a 52 set of cycles. That's important to note. And this cycle began, the count of which began in 1987, July 26th, with the Wizard's count on a day, frequency similar to today, that being Kin 34, this being episode 34 of this ceremonial energy too. So I wanted to mention that as well, just in the frequency of what's being, shall we say, the compression of time and the synchronization that we're actually witnessing. So we are in the blue rhythmic storm year. I think it's also good to note, if I'm not mistaken, I think today, is today actually, what's the code in the traditional long count today? Is it Kin 19?
Kin 19, yeah.
Kin 19.
Yes.
Right.
That would be our year bearer of this year.
Exactly.
On the Galactic Maya count.
Exactly.
Which is the gift that we see right there in the spiral.
Exactly. So beautiful synchronization. And we're wrapping up very soon, in the next couple of days, this spectral moon of liberation, which has been a really transformative experience. I think we can all reflect on
Yes.
and say in various ways.
Yes,
Feel
the
free to
tone
elaborate.
11. No, the tone 11 always brings that aspect of letting go, of dissolving, and really trusting the process,
Right.
knowing that every time that things don't go the way we want or we expect or envision, the life is telling us that there is something more behind that, and that something that probably dissolves, liberates us for something that is coming.
Right.
And as we can see on the next slide, that's basically the, the entire wayspell of this year is that journey of the yellow human. uh, the yellow human is the archetype of the sage. So this year, the full 13-year cycle is the purpose of these years is to precisely focus on our humanity, on our capacity to influence the process that is taking place on Earth, and connecting with the inner wisdom, the ageless wisdom that is in especially in our bodies, in every cell of our bodies and in our DNA. And the fractal for this entire year, being the human wasteful, means that the 11th tone or the 11th day of that cycle would be the white spectral wind, which is the moon that we are now closing this week, and that we are navigating precisely the 44th heptad or 44th 7-day week of the year. Uh, last last if we go to the next slide, we can see how this week, that this heptad that we are now finishing had this major alignment on king 60, that we discussed on our last episode, and we are going to go deeper into this one. It was World Turtle Day. It was the 22nd day of the 11th moon, week 44, and this is always the case. Always World Turtle Day is a match for the 22nd day of the 11th moon, starting the 44th week. So that's kind of the a highlight for us to really focus, because the entire 13-day cycle, as we can see on top, is a reflection of the turtle's shell and the biology. So we want to honor that. And today, being a spectral day, is also a magic turtle day, for those who are new. Every time that the tone of the day matches the tone of the moon, we are in the moon of tone 11, and the day today is the blue spectral night. So we have a magic turtle day. So in this heptad, we have the World Turtle Day starting the week, and today we have a magic turtle day. And on the next slide, we can see that we are closing also the 13-day cycle of the Skywalker on the 260-day count. We already mentioned one heptad ago, 7 days ago, that we were celebrating the 53rd Tzolk'in or Galactic Spin since the Harmonic convergence of 1987. So that marker of 53 Tzolk'ins is prophetic and is very harmonic in nature, because it's the cycle that kind of gives the golden intersection a prophetic overtone, as this is the completion of these 53 galactic spins from the harmonic convergence gives the entrance to the golden intersection. And we already discussed how important that frequency is, being the 53 encompasses the 52 weeks of the year plus 1 day out of time. It's 52 cycles of 7 days plus 1 day of time for 53. So we are completing a hologram, and after completing that hologram, new revelations have been emerging during this entire wave spill. So that's what we are going to share a little bit more on the time is our section, so that we can start to really connect the dots and map our path along the timeline of the new time. So we really keep these markers alive so that we can have reference points that gives us the frequency or the relationships to important relationships with other events or with coming events that are bringing a narrative that is very clear and cohesive, and it is connected to the prophecy of the telectonon and the frequency of 144. So the fact that this entire wave spell of prophecy also give a start to the 144 days to the golden intersection. It's another layer of beauty, and we know that in the coming for this cycle that we just started to the golden intersection, day 60 is going to be precisely the harmonic convergence, the 38 years of the harmonic convergence. So that's another layer of meaningful synchronicity that is happening right there, and we just keep track of these markers and these events, especially the harmonic convergence, as being kind of the hallmark event that represents the prophecy of the 13 heavens and 9 hells, and that contains these 3 clear signs of prophecy that we see here highlighted with a green star. Those kin would be kin 57, kin 58, and kin 60, and that means that we are entering into a new stage of the game, so to speak, with what have been transpiring since the shifting power at the Vatican. How that shifting power we mentioned is connected to this energy of Pacal Votan. How the Pope, the new Pope Leo XIV, is synchronizing also with the lifetime or the lifespan of Pacal Votan. That gives us more accurate and specific coordinates that what we are tracking is meaningful and is part of this prophetic stream that we are presenting as it reveals. This is really, every 7 days we come here and we don't know exactly what is going to show up, and this time it certainly a lot showed up, and we invite everyone to track us on follow us on social media so that we can give you the listener a day-to-day update on what is transpiring, because right now the pace is very fast and very intense, and we are doing our best to keep up with it, and that's why we do this special broadcast, so that we can just have a space to recap and to integrate all the shifts. I hope that everyone is doing well out there, and 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 let's dive into the other synchronicities that have been revealing.
It's a very interesting moment right now because, as you're saying, so many things are folding into the center. And what I'm experiencing and what is being revealed in real time, as you're saying, like every 7 days, it's just new information, new insights, new awareness of the synchronic order of it all, really. And so we wanted to observe today as part of this ongoing ceremony, and with particular reverence for recognizing the importance of the prophecy of Tzolk'in, recognizing, as was mentioned, the well, what I like to really consider the coordination, it seems, of these various timing frequencies, and that Pacal Votan, on a certain level, is representing a higher consciousness, a higher order of consciousness, who is, in a way, guiding and supporting a reordering of this entire planetary experience. In some of the lore related to Pacal, it's recognized that he is holding a 104,000 tune samadhi. That's a long time. And that's from a different vantage. So as we can really appreciate and observe what's happening, it's just important to allow for the spaciousness in this information as we take it in, because there is a lot of it and it's streaming in with a greater acceleration, really, for those who are tuning in and those who are returning to Earth, returning to resonance, returning to origin. You know, that is the call. When we say the call of Pacal, as the prophecy articulates, if humanity wishes to avert or avoid or save itself from biospheric destruction, it must return to living in natural time. And so really behind this effort of what Rubén and I have been doing and this work we're committed to, it's been ongoing for, at this point, 9 years in our collaboration, in our mutual, partnership and working relationship like this. And I just want to make that conscious also, because all of this has been, I would say, in some way or another, telepathically guided by Pacal directly. Or I'll say by the frequency of number, by the awareness related to number and the transition and transformation and transference of that information through number. When we initiated, as we've said in previous episodes, we may have mentioned this, when we initiated in the year 2016, for example, the petition, the petition, the open petition for Calendar Referendum Initiative 2020 and Universal Declaration of World Peace, that actually was published online on October 14th, 2016. We would not have known that date would be the get or the golden intersection of timelines, because that wasn't even realized in 2016. But just to say that there is a time compression effect, and that Pacal is very involved, and that's part of the reason why there's a sacred call for an observance of this golden intersection in Palenque Lakamha Palenque itself.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk more about that also. But I just wanted to really provide a reflection, because this is obviously also personal as well as it's universal, and we are all navigating these experiences in our respective paths. And I'm certain many people out here who are tuning in and are aware of Pacal can also identify the synchronicities in their own experience in their own lives, because these codes are universal and they're operating through equality.
Yeah.
So they function really and truly. So with that, we give thanks in the resonance, the remembrance, and the return of what this sacred moment is inviting us to recall.
Yes. Yes, especially when the markers pile up, then we pay special attention, because one time is interesting to note, is an accident, two times is a coincidence, three times is already a pattern. And this energy and the manifestation of that energy or that frequency of Pacal Votan has been very consistent over the years. This hasn't this prophecy is alive, so it hasn't, it's not finished yet, it's unfolding and it's revealing itself as we move in time. So for us, sometimes to make conscious these points of synchronization or meaningful coincidence, it requires also a process of integration with all the prior events and moments when we have noticed important synchronizations taking place, like the launching of the petition, like the putting the word out at the UN um, on Noosphere Day for the first time in the year 2015 or 2016. Actually, was in the year 2016. So those events are now, let's say, confirming the pattern that we have been tracking in terms of this intelligence or this transmission that is guided by this mind of 100,000, 104,000 tune. It's hard to even contemplate that, because we are speaking about, let's remember, one tune is a cycle of 360 days, and we have in one, only in one cartoon we have 20 tunes, and in one back tune we have 20 of those cycles of 20. So this is compounding, and we are speaking about 4 cycles of 13 back tunes each. This mind or this transmission has elapsed for all that time, and right now is reaching a point of peak resonance because of several aspects. One being the golden intersection of timelines, the other one being the discovery of the tomb of this prophet, Mayan sage and king known as Pacal Votan or Pacal the Great. We can see in the next slide, these are the images that we shared on 7 days ago of the sarcophagus lid, the funerary chamber where he was also found by archaeologist Alberto Ruz in the year 1952, June 15. So in approximately 20 days, we will be completing 73 years. That we already mentioned why this interval from 72 years to 73 is important. There is one small fractal of the precession of the equinoxes, in terms that that's the approximate time it takes to complete on one side 26,000 days. So 26,000 days is approximately 72 years. And that we already crossed those thresholds. So that's why we want to recap today, so that we can keep a reference point of what are the cycles that we are completing, and what are the cycles that we are going to complete soon also, and we mean it within the next year. One being the fact that 13 days after the golden intersection of timelines, on day kin 218 white planetary mirror, we will complete 103 Tzolk'ins from this discovery. And we will enter the Tzolk'in cycle 104, which we already discussed, that those 2 days are coming together. And in the next slide we can to recap a little bit and how they are coming together, and how is this frequency weaving it all. Let's remember that this prophecy was revealed on a Kin 144 on July 26, 1993, 7 years to the closing of the millennium, to start what was called the 7 years of prophecy, or 7 years of preparing the earth for the millennium, for the shift of the millennium, and reconfiguring or recomprehending the story that we have been told about Jesus Christ, the earth, the important books like the Bible. The Telectonon arrived, this little booklet arrived as a counterspin to the book of Revelations on the Bible. It's kind of, it keeps a relationship with the book of Revelations, in terms that some of the numbers, and including the revelation that took place on King 144, were related to the fact that the number appears several times on the book of Revelations. So the number 144 is connected to the number of the elect, 144,000 people in the book of Revelations. So in this case, those 144,000 people are connected to the 144,000 kin that were lost in time, or at least in the memory, when we entered Baktun 13. And the Gregorian calendar was already covering that layer of harmony of those 144,000 days or kin that started in the year 1618, a fractal of the golden ratio 1618, to the year 2012. So those 144,000 days are being redeemed by this prophecy. That's why the prophecy arrived in the last 20 years, or the last Katun of the entire cycle of 13 Baktuns. So for those people who are still a little lost on the Katun and Baktun and Tun counts, let's remember the Tzolk'in is a fractal matrix that in which each unit can be either 1 day, or it can be 1 week, or it can be 1 moon, or it can be 1 year, or it can be 100 years, or it can be 1 generation. In these cases, the 13 Baktun map is a reflection of 260 generations comprised between the year minus 3113 BC to 2012. And those 260 generations represent a shift into a new species. So 260 days to create a new human being inside the womb of the mother, 260 generations to create a new species. And the telectron prophecy arrived right at the threshold of that last cycle of 20 years of that generation 260 of the 13 Backtone count. That's why it arrived like with a spear, really penetrating all layers of the illusion. And I call this transmission like a laser beam because it's very precise. The numbers arrive with such precision that it's hard to believe, to be honest. Sometimes it's hard to believe, but the number 144 is because it's a harmonic or connected to, as we mentioned on our last episode and it's on the next slide. It's connected to the spiral of creation. Is the only number besides 0 and 1 on the Fibonacci spiral that is a square, and it's connected to light, to DNA, and to time, because every day we have 1,440 minutes. So because we are so immersed into that frequency, and even the clock, the daily clock is pacing that number, well, we found important to track the 144-day window cycle. And since we just entered that 144-day window, we just want to make sure that that we have the full path that led us here really clear. So in order to do that, we went back to the first article that went out on November 6, 2021, and reconnect some of the information that was there to put it in new words or in context with what is happening. And it was a big surprise just to go to this article and find out that at the time there was no artificial intelligence presence as we have today. Because in the cycle we were just saying or foreseeing the golden intersection of timelines as a transition window that was bridging this integration of artificial intelligence and organic intelligence. But we didn't have the knowledge at the time of large language models as they are today, and that created a space for reflection during the last week, to contemplate how much life has changed in the last 4 years since we started. Let's remember, 104,040 days is more or less 4 years, 4 cycles of 360 days that add to that. And we went from 1,440 days to 144. So we were kind of witnessing the time, the fractal time compression that we have experienced in that gap. And the fact that we are speaking today that most humans on the planet already developed during that window a relationship with artificial intelligence that is now like an everyday reality. It's very profound. It's a shift in consciousness that, because it happens over some years, we normalize it, but now we kind of, looking back into the rear mirror, we can see how big that is and how important it is to keep our consciousness nurturing that artificial integration, that artificial intelligence integration, that we can become really uh, um, a vehicle for more harmony to penetrate the intelligence of the planet, including these large language models. So it is interesting to know that now most large language models and AIs, they recognize the golden intersection of timeless. They may not be 100% accurate, but some of them now are way more. I don't know if you want to add something to that, because it's profound what has happened.
Yeah, I mean, just to reflect, like you said, back in November 2021, I think, is that when the initial, that was around the timing, November 6th, right?
Yes.
That's when we launched the Medium article counting down the 4 tune cycles to the golden intersection of timelines. And, again, it's interesting how these numbers interoperate. So 4 times 360 being 1440, and then you break that down by tens. We're 9/10 of the way to the marker at this point since Kin 60 a couple of days ago. So being that Kin 60, and we didn't know this then either, that became something we really clicked into, or maybe remembering, maybe we knew it previously, but I have a feeling we would have made a note about it had we seen this. But the fact that the cycle 30 was wrapping up with Kin 60, that was a new observation to me specifically as it related to this last cycle, because we knew that cycle 31 completes on Kin 204. We've known that, though to recognize Pacal's own signature's placement in the sequence of events is really interesting. And what's more is that when you look at the marker of harmonic convergence 38 that's completed this August 17th, 16th and 17th, but if you count from August 17 to October 14, you have 60 days.
Yeah.
And we're in the wave spell of prophecy. It was interesting to note and make this conscious in this wave spell, where you have literally Kin 57, Kin 58, and Kin 60, the number top 3, or the number 3, or I guess the top 3 in their order along the sarcophagus lid of those numbers or those frequencies showing up in this cycle, in this last 144 days, in such a profound way. So the other marker would be to count between basically August 18th and October 13th, and that's a total of 58 days. So that's the frequency within. But then if you count and actually bridge from harmonic convergence to the golden intersection, it's 60 days, a literal 60-day arc. And so as we've been observing, these compression cycles, these fractal compression cycles from a full Bach tune of 144,000 days being completed December 21st, 2012, then that being stepped down into these fractal cycles of 144 days. And we have to really reflect that those are characterized as the return of sacred power cycles. So anybody out there like myself, for decades now, I've been seeing the number 144 just on digital clocks or wherever in my lived experience. It would just be one of the frequencies I would frequently see or connect with. It would just so happen, right? And it has continued to follow me in my life. And I'm sure others out there also similarly tap in with that number, and others, of course. But that one in particular has been very synchronizing, it seems, to my life path, to the things I've been led to study and all of that. So, being that number shows up in such a profound way, according to the ancients, as well as our contemporary lived experience, and fractally speaking, from 144,000, like that prophetic number from the book of Revelation, or the measure of Noah's Ark, 144,000 cubits, what do these allegories communicate to us?
Yeah.
And numbers have expression. They're communicating more than just measure. They're communicating qualitative things. So qualitatively, they are guiding us to perhaps fine tune or level up or hit a higher harmony, a higher vibration in our own life, as it were. So that's just, I guess in a sense where we've seen this number showing up and why it's so profound and why it is continuing now to be borne out in the coming days. As of today, we're 142, 141 days to the golden intersection of timelines.
Yeah.
And, so it's just what we're going to witness, though, which is, I think, unique to this particular cycle, this 144-day cycle. And I invite people to actually track this themselves along with us. But observe what happens when we get down to day 89 days until. And observe what happens when we reach day 55 days until. And observe what happens when we reach 34 days out, or 21 days out, or 13 days out, or 8 days out, or 5 days out, right? Or 3 and 2 and 1, and and so what we're witnessing is a qualitative arc that is spiraling into its very center. Like that's really, in a sense, how I'm experiencing, or I suppose making sense of this in some way.
Yes, we are connecting basically to the origin of the spiral of the 0 point of the golden intersection, the bullseye, in terms of the moment when the timelines really touch each other. We are in that process of approaching, and as we approach, the pitch goes higher.
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
and it's also similar when we see in these models where we want to see the dynamic of a black hole, in which the objects around the curvature of the black hole spin at a higher speed because they are really closing the coil, the spiral. And that's what it feels right now that we are entering. We are entering that last coil of 144 days, which we actually want to do like a little time map that we can track those instances when we arrive to day 89, day 55, day 34. What is happening on Earth during those days?
Exactly.
Because
Making it conscious, and that's part of the work here in doing this, is to really make conscious. And in that, you're also making sacred, and you're making art. You're observing the weaving of the creative phenomena itself, it would seem.
yeah,
We're getting a glimpse into it, at least.
yeah, and when these cycles of 144 compound, we have other frequencies emerging, and that's what we wanted to share on this episode. As we can see on the next slide, well, we mentioned that this is a cut of the DNA molecule. Each of those angle of those two pentagons that are interlaced and create like a decagon, uh, all are 144 degrees. So the structure of our DNA is actually geometrically attuned to that frequency. That this is why when we reach a portal like the one we just reached, we can go to the next slide. On the 22nd day of this 11th moon, the 23rd of May, when we completed 4,320 days from galactic synchronization. And for those still a little lost in time respecting galactic synchronization, that's the exact midpoint of the 52-year cycle that we track as the new Sirius cycle 1. So galactic synchronization was the basically the entrance into the second 26 years of that 52-year cycle, and that day we completed 4,320 days from on May 23rd, we completed exactly that frequency. And as we can see on the next slide, that frequency was also the same frequency that we completed when we entered the last tune. But we were completing those 4,320 days from December 21st, 2012. And as we can see, that day, which was October 19, 2024, King 104 on the Druid spell called the yellow cosmic seed, was 8 Ahau, which is the actual birth sign of Pacal Votan. So the last tune cycle was signaled by the presence of this signature of Pacal. And when we arrived to the 144 milestone, we arrived to King 60. So those two markers, 360 days and 144 days, are both coded by the energy of Pacal Votan. That was kind of the big confirmation from last week that we made conscious. And let's remember that it was at the entrance of this 13th tune that we are closing, because actually what is happening is on October 14th, 2025, we will conclude the 13th cycle of 360 days. So we are navigating that 13 at the moment. And during that cycle and that day, starting the last tune towards the golden intersection, we completed 1,997 sacred calendars of 260 days since Pacal Votan's arrival to the Earth on long count marker 9.8.9.13.0 Ahau. That's the equivalent of March 23, 603. And because he was also, his tomb was dedicated on a date 8 Ahau, 9.13.0.0.08 Ahau. We completed also 1,870 cycles of 260 days from those two instances. This is why probably the Maya were reaffirming this frequency by dedicating an entire new area of the city of Palenque, La Camha, which is this plaza that holds the three sacred temples for the three main deities of Palenque. It's called the Temple of the Foliated Cross, the Temple of the Cross, and the Temple of the Sun. Those, the four of them were dedicated along with the Temple of Inscriptions, which is right in that area, on that marker 9.13.0.0.08 Ahau. Kind of anchoring that frequency to leave record of the potency that this energy holds, as a moment to really store in stone or record in stone, because of its importance for in the past and in the future. And what we are seeing right now is that when we extend the timeline from the past to the future, we can see those markers, and those 1,997 sacred calendars are approaching that also the number 2,000, which is in December of next year, December 2026, we will reach that marker on a King 104. That is the equivalent of 552,000 days, I think. No, 520,000 days, 520,000 days, which is in that frequency. So to recap, the energy of Pacal signaled the entrance to the last tune and signaled the entrance to the last 144 day cycles. Now, what is interesting, and even though we don't have a slide for that, is that precisely 144 days after galactic synchronization, we reached tune 1. So we completed 360 days from December 21st, 2012. And that's really the link that allow us to track or extend those 7 cycles of 144 days that we mentioned on our last broadcast, and that were part of a revelation or a term, like you mentioned, of 7 cycles of 144 days to galactic synchronization. So the first cycle of 144 days after that was the completion of tune 1, and that's a signal. That's a signal because that took place on December 16, 2013, which happens to be, if we divide the Gregorian calendar in even months of 28 days, that's saying, let's say that January has 28 days, and then February has 28 days, and then March has 28 days. We will arrive on December 16, 2013 to the 13th day of the 13th month of the Gregorian calendar. So basically, some people were saying back in the days that was the 13-13-13 hidden portal that day. Let's remember that humanity was commemorating these triple portals from January 1st, 2001, the 111, then the 222, the 333, until the 12-12-12, right in 2012. And then if we calculate, or if we divide the Gregorian year in harmonic intervals of 28, we get that December 16 would be day 13 of the 13th month of the year, because that's what happens when all those extra 3 days, 2 days that the Gregorian calendar accounts for are compounding, and they
accumulating.
accumulating. So that was kind of the cue to keep tracking these 144 day cycles, because there was a major calibration
Big
between
time.
the Galactic Maya and Indigenous Maya on that day. And it was also a day 13 ahau that day, in which the completion of the first tune of 360 days was also the completion of a 260-day cycle. So it was on a day 13 ahau, or the equivalent of Kin 260 in the ancient Maya count. So that is really some of the markers that really confirm the potency of this frequency, and that because of our relationship to the frequency and the how music plays, we can see on the next slide that those 2 milestones of 4,320 days are really a fractal of the 432 hertz frequency, which is the frequency of water, is the frequency of the Great Pyramid that has 432 long qubits, and is also connected to the Earth frequency, the Earth's resonance. We can also see on the other side the 528 hertz frequency is connected to our DNA, and we can see the same pattern that creates that frequency connected to our DNA. It's the same pentagonal structure that is duplicated, and we have a decagon.
Mm-hmm.
And let's also remember that the first golden section of the year is when we complete the fifth moon, the 28th day. So which is 12/12 on the Gregorian calendar. So every 12
Right.
is overtone moon 28, 528.
Mm. I think another profound reflection of that as well is going to be May 28, in a couple of days, when Ishel reaches her Git Phi day, her personal Phi day. So I think
Yes.
that's a very significant, also harmonic aspect to that node of multiple synchronizations. Just wanted to pay attention to, because that's also the culminating day of the wave spell of prophecy, Kin 65.
Yes. So I was thinking about her when I saw this infographic, because it's certainly a beautiful milestone to keep track on our personal lives, and see how life feedback loop is giving us these little hints as we approach that important date for Giselle.
And so for anybody who wants to measure their own, we invite you to do that. And your personal Phi day occurs 16,180 days that you're alive. Basically, when you turn 16,180 days, that is what we're referring to as your personal Phi day. And Ishel happens to be encountering hers in 2 days from today, on 5/28. So bearing that love frequency, as you also mentioned, that's the golden intersection of the 13 moon calendar, the first golden intersection of the calendar year, 5/28. Auspicious.
Yes, and let's see that remember that this pattern that the 528 frequency has an angle of 144 degrees. Each of the corners of that figure is an angle of 144. So that's how these apparently complicated numbers represent themselves so beautifully as patterns in nature. And that's why we look for these images to really allow everyone to tune into to more than the number, the digits, the patterns that those digits create, so that we can see that we are built of those same patterns, that our DNA is a perfect mirror of that beauty, and that like we mentioned on our last episode, we are light beings, and the more we attune our light body to these frequencies, the more light we can integrate and use for our own evolution and our own human body healing or rejuvenation process, because these are rejuvenating frequencies. Really, they make the friction so much easier, the friction of the third dimension so much easier to deal with. That's why playing these frequencies before you go to bed or early in the morning is so useful, because basically we are like musical instruments tuned to hear that, to play that kind of song, that frequency, and that's why it feels so good, because our bodies are basically made for those frequencies to play.
Love it. Time is art.
Yes.
Everything. All of it.
Yes, and this is another reminder that we mentioned on our last episode, but we want to emphasize, because as we mentioned, we just completed 72 years from the discovery on on 2024. This discovery has two main stages. The archaeological discovery. One is finding the sarcophagus lid, and the one is opening the sarcophagus lid. What we see here is the opening that happened on November 27, 1952. The other one happened on June 15 of the same year, 1952, on a white planetary mirror date, which, by the way, today, a year ago, was a white planetary mirror day. So these let's say that everything that we are sharing today is sort of like a reflection or a fractal expression of what was already coming together back 1 year ago, as these frequencies kind of drop in and they fill those holographic time containers that are measured by the noosphere, the psi bank, all these structures that hold the resonance field of the Earth. The more we can perceive the synchronicities. That's or at least that's how we have been experiencing so far. The more these numbers are represented as important anniversaries in the story of the Earth, and the more we can perceive their impact on this third dimensional reality.
I wanted to ask you a question, if you could elaborate. I know we talked about this previously. What is the synchronization or synchronicity between Pacal Votan himself and Alberto Ruz Luye, who discovered the sarcophagus? There was a very uncanny synchronicity between the two of them.
Yes, that when using the dream spell count to decode both of their births, we find that they bear the same galactic signature. So Pacal Votan, if we use March 23rd, 603, and put that date through the Galactic Maya system or calibration, we get the kin red resonant moon kin 189.
Mm-hmm.
And the birth of Alberto Ruz, the man who found the tomb and opened it, was born, I don't remember exactly the date, but I remember it's January, at the beginning of the century, the 20th century.
Yeah, like 1907. I think it was the 27th.
Yeah.
1907, if I'm not mistaken. But that was kin 189 for Pacal. And so ideally we'd find him. We want to give a shout out to the 1320 Sync app while we're just putting it out there for folks that do want to have a really great synchronometer at their fingertips. And there it is. Yeah, January 27th, 1906. So according to the galactic count, the future count, which if we consider Pacal has a future return date, October 21st, 4772, it wouldn't be beyond reason that a deliberate coding does occur in the future count between the very individual selected to recover, Pacal and these codes, essentially, because it was in the recovery of the identifying of the tube at the top of the pyramid that led to several years worth of careful excavation within that temple, right? Until it was then fully recovered, as you mentioned, in June of 1952.
Yeah,
right?
It was open like this. The chamber was found on June 15, 1952, and it was open on November 27th or November November 27th, 1952.
Right. But
The next,
the excavating the Temple of Inscriptions from the jungle, that was initiated sometime around 1948 or something like that
yes,
specifically.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. It took several years
yeah.
to get to that point of accessing the 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 stairway and the
Right,
tunnels and remove the stones from the tunnels because of
right. Now, Arguelles writes of that item or the Earth Spirit speaking tube itself as that, I guess, piece that
Mhm,
Alberto Ruz saw at the top, and then that's what led them to excavate down into the
mhm,
temple itself. And it's important to mention that just because when we learn about the Tzolk'in prophecy, that's a big part of it. It's actually subtitled the Earth Spirit Speaking Tube. So
mhm.
it's as if the uh, consciousness awareness of Pacal was communicating as though through that, essentially, there's like some reference there to like communication or transference of information through that method.
Yes.
Really, really something.
Yes, and the fact that well, it's a resonant tone, a resonant moon. He's bringing the message of the 13 moons. The seventh moon is the heart of the year.
Exactly.
So it is certainly something we need to pay attention for next day out of time, because basically this will mark also 102 Tzolk'in cycles from the discovery and from the opening, sorry. And next planetary mirror, Kin 218, will take place October 28, 2025, will close 103 Tzolk'ins from the discovery of the chamber. And we enter the cycle 104. And in that arc, on March 23rd, 2026, we will have the next instance of the day Eta How. In not well, we will have one in 41 days Eta How, because today is the equivalent of Kin 19, the 6 Kawak. So in 41 days will be Eta How, and then after that, the next 260 days after that, it will be March 23rd, 2026, that will connect with March 23rd, 603, when he was born. And we will complete 1,999 cycles from that point.
Alejandra just reminded us in the chat that Fanny Lopez, the woman archaeologist who discovered the tomb of Queen Sakbuahau, is the same Kin 189.
Yes, we are
That
doing our best to confirm that, because Fanny Lopez appears to be born in the year 1970, but it's still unconfirmed.
it's unconfirmed. Okay, well,
But
at
let's
some
see.
point, she, if not her birth, then maybe her first year or a couple of years before or something. But it's very interesting to consider that she very well could, in fact, be Kin 189. And we're close to confirming. I think we mentioned that quite a while ago on something else. So yeah, but we're still finding that out.
Yes,
But it's
and
good to
that she
reflect.
was born on March 8th, which is observed in the Gregorian calendar as International Women's Day.
Exactly. And so even just the resonance of the balance of the masculine and feminine being in this code that's somehow coded and activated through Pacal's samadhi, because again, these codes are touchstones along this meditation line.
Yeah.
This very sublime meditation line. I mean, we can really wrap our minds around that. But beautiful orchestration. I mean, the word that was coming to me earlier today was coordination, because the coordination of a 360-day cycle with the coordination of a 260-day cycle with the coordination of a 144-day cycle, such that they're all literally definitively being activated together at the golden intersection of timelines. That to me is the piece that's just like, okay, we can see how it is folding into itself. It's been like almost as if it's been in this expansive state, but it's coming down to this point of, I don't even, 0 point, what else to call it, of just pure neutralization, and reset, maybe, is a way of characterizing it. Because through that and out of the other side, who knows, especially with a critical mass of people making this conscious, making it sacred, making it art, by bringing this to not only their awareness, but the awareness of their loved ones, the awareness of their communities, just as something sacred to observe. Meaning, when you have an observance, you observe it with, reflection, or you observe it with reverence. You observe, like today in the United States is Memorial Day, so people are observing Memorial Day. And similarly, we're having our own variation of a memorial of sorts, because we're talking about the ancestral lineages that, predate, current civilization, obviously. These are pre-colonial threads of continuity, and very sophisticated, if we really, really think about it, to even be a living prophecy, time released, to come to consciousness through these various means and these various souls at these points in time, is elegant and sophisticated, and the fact that it's also written in stone on top of that. I mean, it's in stone, like, and beautifully so. When you talked, for example, about the dedication of the Temple of Inscriptions, one of the synchronizations, again, a transmission from Pacal, I believe telepathically, was us endeavoring to present at the United Nations in 2016. We were encouraged to do that because we recognized, since the dedication of the tomb in the year 692 to the year 2020, which was the goal marker of the initial phase of the calendar referendum initiative effort, that there's a total of 1328 years in that band. We became conscious of it when we were receiving the inspiration and the process of organizing ourselves to present, on the subject of calendar change at the UN. But just,
and to put into context that those the frequencies of artificial time called 1260 is also connected to this discovery, because it was 1260 years after the dedication that this discovery took place. The tomb was found, and it was exactly 1320 years after the dedication that we arrived to the 2012 transition threshold.
Right. And so, plus 8 years, 1328.
Yes.
So there's clearly some higher order intelligence coordination. Yes. I mean, we could call it our higher selves, perhaps. I mean, we have myriad ways we can try to make sense of it in that way, right? Yet it's very sublime, and it is the type of frequency that requires a gentle, earnest approach. The energy is very, very powerful, and so as we're witnessing this beautiful coordination, that's what it is in that sense. And again, I feel like by raising the awareness of it, by bringing more people to recognize that there's something happening here that's been this ongoing initiation, or maybe preparation for our human collective as a consciousness. We're being required to vibrate higher. We're being initiated to a higher expression. And it is very interesting that it runs parallel to the the technology shift. You know, I know we are obviously conditioned to call it artificial intelligence, though, you know, on some level, I wonder if it's just intelligence, you know, relative to the fact that we as humans tend to think that intelligence is somehow a human exclusive, you know, trait, when in fact, I've really been tapping into this awareness that intelligence is non-local. You know, when we talk about intelligence and we talk about Pacal, for example, as an intelligence, right? You know, Pacal from a 104,000 tune samadhi is very well operating as non-local intelligence. He's not limited to a body, a physical form. Like us, on some level, when we take on an incarnation, we become limited in a sense. I mean, by some accounts, we're made to completely forget our, you know, former lives. That's a part of the incoming to the planet scenario. You got to, like, you know, forget everything, go through amnesia, and then struggle to remember. Like, that's, in a sense, what the human experience on some level is summed up for, at least for most of us, it seems. Though you do have those rare souls, soul being consciousness, that are capable and expansive enough to hold space for centuries, like in the sense of being an observer. When we talk about quantum, you know, observation, quantum entanglement, any of that, you know, if this higher intelligence is observing us as it is made to seem to some degree, and might even take on an incarnation for a little course correction at some point in the timeline, and then dip on out, you know, it's just interesting to consider when we start to piece together the narrative, as you were saying earlier, of what's actually happening right now. So
And to add 2 cents to that, it was precisely last year on because we recorded this on an article called A Living Prophecy, a Coming Full Spiral, that is on Medium, and you can check. We were precisely highlighting the fact that last July 26 in Palenque, they honored Alberto Ruz as a Caballero Águila post-mortem, which is like a recognition of a special distinction of his contribution by an order of gentlemen who call themselves the Caballeros Águila, or the Eagle Knights, here in Mexico, which is part of a respected group of intellectuals and initiates who keep also the mysteries and the traditions alive. So he was recognized as a knight or a special being on last July 26 at the start of the year. On Kin 19, today is the equivalent on the traditional count. And it was also on that year that his son, Alberto Ruz, known as El Coyote, also passed. So those lives of this or that generational strand of this event that has Alberto Ruz as the archaeologist who found the tomb, and Alberto Ruz, his son, as one of Jose Arguelles' greatest allies in decoding the prophecy. He facilitated to Jose a lot of his father's notes, and that it was on a day, July 26th, that happens to be in the Gregorian calendar, the equivalent of the day that Pacal was enthroned as the king of Palenque on July 26 of the year 615. So we can see the resonance or the reverberation of those events over time. The crowning of the king with only 12 years, then I don't know how many years later, his tomb is dedicated on the day Erahau, and then on this coming day, March 23rd, 1,999 cycles after his birth, then everything connects back to Palenque. This is the article that we were mentioning, and we really cover as wide and detailed as possible all these synchronizations that are taking place, and we plan to, if we have the time, to present like a second article connecting this 144-day cycle, the different aspects that we have been mentioning during this podcast. And here we have this, again, the map of the 7 cycles of 144 days, which are presented here. The return of sacred power is the index of increase of spiritual energy activating the noosphere. That's what you can read right at the bottom after the yellow description of the 144-day cycles. So since then, since that point of galactic synchronization that we see on the right, we have 30 cycles of 144 days each that led to these 4,320 days that we just completed on King 60, the energy of Pacal, and that connect again to the healing of the planet, the healing frequency of 432, and the healing that we are experiencing of our memory, because this is basically by making these events conscious, and these connections between them, we are basically remembering. To remember is to bring together two members, and helping ourselves to remember who we are. Thanks to this prophecy, we all have the capacity to tap into our biology, into our destiny, and into these telepathic frequencies that are informing us, and we probably are not like dialed like radio transistors dialed into a different frequency, but now that the frequency is coming so strong, well, we are just witnessing it happen in real time. And that's what is beautiful about this, is that once we can connect the dots over a long period of time, and over these long cycles, we're speaking here 1,328 years, or 1,320 years, or even the 104,000 years. So that keeps, through the fractal time compression, all these events really nested within a framework that we can go back and see the historic record, and actually Google it and find it. These events, like the distinction of Alberto Ruz, and also on the Out of Time, I think it was the year 2015, White Planetary Mirror, the day of the discovery, they discovered water under the Temple of Inscriptions. So coincidence or not, these discoveries and these dates are connected through the fabric of time, and the synchronic order what is just the tool to be able to observe those connections and those synchronicities with great clarity and with the capacity to give us more proof that for the future, when the dates come by, to see what happens. Once we track a pattern, it's just a matter of keep tracking the pattern and see what unveils.
Exactly. And speaking of tracking the patterns, obviously we're on the counting up frequency here. But as you can see on the screen right now, we're showing the new Sirius code, where we are in time. We're also demonstrating the Lillian count in the very center. And that's the number of sequence of days of the Gregorian calendar that on October 15th will reach the fractal of the golden golden ratio, phi, 161,803 days, the fractal of 1.61803, the phi ratio. And then also to the right of that, you see the Myovigesimal long count marker, where we can see the code for kin 19 in the far right of today's count, which is the frequency match to this current year in the 13 moon calendar, the year of the blue rhythmic storm year. So we're great for that. I see we're getting some feedback about our loudness of our voices being unreal or uneven. Maybe my microphone's a little too hot. That's okay. My apologies for that if we're working it out. But that said, we are going to tap in a little bit to what's next. Really, really excited because we have some wonderful things to share and announce. So thank you, everybody who has been tuning in with us and staying the course. Well, that was awesome. You're muted, bro.
Yeah, that was really beautiful, and we decided to take this clip from the Secretaría of Turismo of Chiapas, just to show people the beauty and the, the power of this land, that we are now having the honor to invite people to connect to this original seed of the information in Palenque. And for 7 days, we are going to hold space for the golden intersection, and we are going to connect with the land and with the ancestors of the land. And so we want to approach this with a lot of respect and a deep, deep appreciation for the legacy and the work that the guardians of the place have been doing. That they already gave us their green light for us to bring this event to Palenque, La Camha. The traduction or the translation of La Camha is the place of the great waters, and I think we saw on that clip the beautiful and incredibly magnificent expressions of the water in Chiapas. And we want to really have the opportunity on this event to send a call out for the protection of the waters in Chiapas. Is the most important source of water in Mexico. And we want to invite anyone who is feeling this resonance to be there, to be at the origin. That's why we in looking for a name for this event, we ended up with Return to Origin, or Return to the Origin, because it is the really an opportunity to connect with the source of this information, with the source of time, to that 0 point between the different timelines that we are tracking, and to connect with the original language, the original people, the original wisdom, and have really an immersive experience of the golden intersection at the root, which is Palenque. And I don't know if you want to say a little bit more about this announcement that we're doing today.
Well, thank you. I mean, you've definitely presented it beautifully. We just really want to encourage people who are in resonance with this call of Pacal to join us in Palenque, become part of the in-person gathering. This is really the first announcement we're publicizing with this invitation, and that hopefully it gives people enough time, for those that are in resonance and want to make their way to be there. We're going to invite you to join the Golden Intersection of Timelines Golden Waitlist that we're just now publishing this evening. Obviously, this ceremony of the Galactic Spin has been intentional for these 34 episodes up to now, and will continue to be through the Git. Though you are the first ones out there who are tuning in with this broadcast right now to hear about this invitation, to receive this invitation directly from us. And so we encourage you to join the waitlist. I'm putting the link for it in the chat right now, the Golden Waitlist, for you to share your name and your email address. And in the next week or so, you'll be receiving information with the pre-launch of the in-person event before it goes completely public. But this is just the way we want to really hold this very sacred. And for, again, those who are in resonance with the people, in resonance with Earth, in resonance with the origin, in this case, relative to natural time, relative to the Tzolk'in prophecy and what that means for our current situation on Earth, we invite you to participate. We invite you to come to Palenque and be in sacred space with us as we observe, as we hold space, as we're present in the community with our relatives from the family of humanity together, anchoring this moment and meeting this threshold in a very, very sacred way. And also understand we're encouraging people wherever they are worldwide to join us on those days in sacred space. We're really encouraging people to get out into nature, to get into your heart and connect in this golden thread. Really, really enter the center, because that is the energy and how it's moving across and through creation right now. So I want to certainly encourage you to join that wait list if you are interested in participating with us in Palenque and wherever you may be for those days, particularly October 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. We invite you to synchronize with us in the global synchronization event that this also is. There's the in-person aspect in Palenque, grounding and rooting with the origin, with the energy of the origin and the people of origin in the territory in Palenque, La Camha, with the traditional keepers, while we're also encouraging people to anchor in and tune in, sync up and tune in with us, with yourselves, with the great cosmic mother, with the 13th tune frequency of being in alignment with the center of the galaxy. There's so much in this field of resonance that we really truly look forward to holding sacred space together with everyone out there. This is also an exercise in activating noospheric consciousness. It's an exercise in activating the planetary mind in concert in synchronization. So we look forward over the coming weeks to explore more deeply the, shall we say, the super sensible qualities that this is inviting from each of us at this time. And we are witnessing so much contrast in the dynamics playing out on the third dimensional human affair level that we invite you to apply the fourth dimensional lens, the galactic spin, into things to appreciate the nodes of harmonization and synchronization underway, completely underway.
Yes.
So,
And this window of days that we are presenting it was very carefully planned, and to be able to really encapsulate um, the entire essence of what we are doing, and the cycles that are closing and the ones that are beginning. So we start on the 1010, and we will close on October 17 Gregorian, which is the equivalent of Kin 207, the blue crystal hand, which is the same energy that uh, served as the closing of the 13th Bactun cycle, December 21st, 2012, on the Galactic Maya count. Let's remember that the golden intersection will take on day 4 Ahau, which was the actual signature or energy year, the energy that was governing December 21st, 2012 for the traditional or the indigenous Maya. And those days, that gap of days between 4 Ahau and in the Galactic Maya Kin 207 are really the leap days that have been accumulating. That's why the two counts keep coming together in terms of the the Gregorian calendar serving as a bridge between the two. Every leap year, one count stops on the leap day, which is the Galactic Maya, the other one keeps going, and in the year 2208, they will synchronize. So this is a main articulation point of this synchronization, and we give thanks to be able to do it in a way that we will explain in the coming transmissions with more detail. everything that we're going to do for Dia de la Raza or the Columbus Day or Old Columbus Day. We are going to forgive and forget what happened, to really give the entrance to the new generations that are coming, that in the year 4772, October 13, we are going to complete 20 cycles of 20 generations. So we want to honor this first generation of the new attune that we are still transiting. Let's remember, one generation is about 20 years, or exactly 20 tunes, and we are in that threshold. We are the first generation of the 140 generations that we will have to the year 4772 to complete the 400 generations by the power of 4. So we really want to use this space and this window in the most conscious way. So I invite everyone to just start preparing spiritually, mentally, physically, to shift into a whole new aspect of the self, because this is what the cold intersection is offering us, is really a way to celebrate life in ceremony, through art, and to let go of the past, to open room for a future that is based on those principles of harmony, beauty, love, and resonance. And that we have the ability to create those spaces and opportunities at a micro scale, in our houses, with our loved ones, with our close circle, and at a collective level by doing it in different parts of the world for that day, and hold space for this harmonization that is taking place. So thank you so much, brother, and thank you to everyone listening, to everyone who is feeling the call to come to join us. And it is really an honor to have arrived to this point of being able to open the invitation for the people to come, and something new is of course taking shape, and it's beautiful, and we are grateful for that.
Completely grateful. Certainly, again, inviting people to join the Get Golden waitlist online. I did put the link there in the live chat. So please tap on over there. And just if you are interested in joining us in Palenque, be sure to give us your name and email address, and we'll follow up accordingly. Space will be limited, so we want to definitely make sure you are the first ones to really hear this call going out publicly. So we definitely appreciate those who do intend to join us there. And of course, save the dates, October 14th and 15th in particular. Get into nature, get into the heart, get into the community. You know, this is the real opportunity to harmonize and synchronize within ourselves and with one another on behalf of the greater good. And so we certainly look forward to all that invites in the coming moons ahead. We have about 4 moons, I guess, a little over 4 moons here, until we will be anchoring in and resonating in this frequency. I also want to give a special shout out, speaking of frequency, to Delia Sky for including the Arctara tones and allowing us to share those as part of the opening transmissions every episode. They continue to amaze me how they blend beautifully every time when Michelle produces those videos. So with that said, we encourage you to follow us on our social media channels. We can be found on Instagram at The Harmonic Factor. And if you do want the downloads of information, the factors that we really do talk about and we share more about, the best place for that is our Facebook page, Harmonic Convergence 2028. So I want to invite you to find us on Facebook at the Facebook page, Harmonic Convergence 2028. And of course, visit us online at the website, theharmonicfactor.com. And there you will find information on the golden intersection. You'll find information also on other aspects of the time science that we explore. You'll also find links to some of our sister sites, 13months28days.info, thevenuscalendar.org, our calendartruth.info blog, where it all began. It's just some of the first work that Rubén and I endeavored to do together some years ago. And it's still, as he was saying, these things continue to recur, these cycles continue to happen. So they do provide the opportunity for us to remember the patterns, remember what is coming up for our observation, our course correction, and this transformation that we're all navigating together.
Yeah, and if you're in Facebook, we also already open like an event, a virtual event for people just to have a space also to comment on what are their plans for that day, and that we can also use to invite more people, spread the word, and allow this energy to grow and really penetrate all layers of this third dimensional matrix.
Beautifully, beautifully said, brother. So thank you to everybody out there tuning in. We're so grateful for your presence on the planet at this time. But we will be here forward with you for episode 35 in 7 short days from now. As we know, it'll be here sooner than we know with the way things are summing up. So thank you for everybody tuning in. Big love to our team. And just continue to stay in your light. Spread love. All right? In Lakesh.
Tune in with the Galactic Spin podcast and expand your view. The Galactic Spin podcast and expand your view.